So I was just in my evening seminar, right? And I've had this fucking psychological theory that I've been juggling for a little bit, right? And tonight was the time to fucking prove it, all right? So I sit down, and the convener I have for this, stand up lad, right? But he's just so into his profession, where so much so that I don't think he has any hobbies. I don't think he has much of a life outside of the profession, right?
Would you call him a square, Dave?
Yeah, I would. And it's all backed up, right? So I'll get to my theory, right? But I'm prefacing all this by saying I had circumstantial evidence up until this point, right? That he was, in fact, a very, very boring person, right? But my approach was three-pronged, right? So I'm sitting in this seminar and a break time hits. Classic David, break time hits. I'm going to start banter. So I start banter with the guy giving the lecture, right? First thing I ask is like, okay, my three-pronged approach. I want to know if he has spare time, what does he do in his spare time? Secondly, does he have any hobbies, right? And I'm broadly defining hobbies, right? Broadly defining, right? And thirdly, which is my theory that I'm trying to prove, I want to know what's on his phone lock screen, right? Because I believe someone's phone lock screen says a lot about who they are as a person, right? Now, this is proven, and I'm going to tell you why. So I ask him, first off, I'm just like, hey, man, just out of curiosity, like, I'm just trying to get to know you. Like, I know you work. Like, you work, obviously, as a teacher here, but you obviously work, like, when you're not here, I know you're doing your profession. Like, do you have much spare time?
So, like, yeah, what do you do when you're not doing what you do?
What do you do when you're not doing what you're doing, right? He's like, oh, no, like, I don't really have much spare time. And, like, the spare time I do have goes into, like, either setting up the syllabus or, like, focusing on, like, my job.
So
right,
when he's not working, he's still working.
When he's not working, he's still essentially working, right? And he has a girlfriend of also who is which are part of that profession, right? So I imagine all they talk about is that as well, right? What happened at work, both your current job at the university and the job outside, right? I'm like, okay, that pretty much answers my spare time question, which then leads into my other one. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm just curious. Like, do you follow any sports? Like, are you a big sporting fan? He's just like, oh no, I really don't have much time, or I've never really had much interest in sports. Like, and I was like, if you had to pick a sport, like of all the sports that have existed in the history of sports, which sport would you pick? Like, if you had to sit down and watch, he's like, oh, like I guess I'd watch like the F1, right? Like, I really get into like the car racing. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And I'm just like, do you watch it often? He's like, oh, not really often. Like, I know, like, of, like, big championship. Like, if there's a big thing happening, I'll find time to watch it. But I don't watch, like, the regular season stuff, right, of F1. I was like, oh, okay, like, do you go to the gym? Do you own any pets, like any children? He's just like,
This questioning seemed like it went for a little bit, Dad.
Yeah, the questioning lasted all about 5 minutes because it was quick, right?
This
quick fire.
This stopped being a casual chat like 4 minutes ago and started being an interrogation.
No, but I'm presenting it now as an interrogation.
Tell me what sport you do.
It wasn't an interrogation in the moment. Like, it was very much like, you know me. I'm like, I was presenting it as banter.
Yeah,
and then it all led around to my final crux, right? Now, fucking, this is like backs up my theory that someone's phone background literally says everything, not everything, but a lot about a person, right? So, and then I preface it to him, right? And I'm just like, so I was just talking with like everyone else in like the lecture theatre, and like I was just talking about like, oh, yeah, my phone background is a quote, right? Which illustrates my ambitious side, right? And I was pointing it to one of my mates, and I'm like, his background is like him with all his mates, right? He's like obviously an outgoing kind of guy. I'm just curious, like, what is your phone background? Because someone's phone background to me says a lot about a person. To which he gets kind of gleeful. He's just like, oh, like, you want to know about my phone background? I'm just like, yeah. Like, I'm really curious. Like, well, I'm so curious what it could be. Like, he's just like, oh, okay. So he picks up his phone and he's like excited, right? Because he's going to be like, oh, I'm about to prove your theory, because the way I imagine in his head ticking is like, oh, he's not expecting like me to have like this picture of me on a motorcycle or some shit, like blah, blah, blah.
Like something really exciting.
Yeah, something exciting. So he picks it up because he's thinking he's won this argument here, all right? Picks it up, opens it, and turns it around and goes, it's just a blank blue background. Of which it's just a blank blue.
It's like
background.
it's just like it's just the default screen.
It is just the default. It is just the default screen, of which immediately,
And he was like, oh mate, you got to get around this one.
of which
It's a real corker, this background.
I slap my desk, I turn to my boys, and I go, what did I fucking tell you? Point proven.
Oh my god! And with that, welcome to Pint Party, a podcast designed to turn a beer and a chat into a tax write-off. Oh, I'm your host John McLeish, and joining me this week is the pair of gimmicks, the Supreme Chancellor of Banter himself, David Yang, and his co-counsel Lachlan Beasley. Boys, welcome.
Hunkudori, how are we?
Good.
Guys?
You know what? Fuck it. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just a little precipice that we are recording in the evening today.
We are in the evening. Okay,
We
so
have an itchin' for a bitchin'.
just to put this in perspective, I go to bed at 9:30 at night. Okay. And like I'm not going to sleep at 9:30 at night, but I'm crawling into bed. I put on a podcast.
You've kicked off your shoes.
I've kicked off my shoes, right? Generally to unwind, I'll play Euro Truck Simulator 2. Like I'll just do a run in that. Just a quick delivery, right? Generally, like, something boring, like something from like, Naples to Nice or something. And just a quick 1,000 Ks, nothing, no big deal. And then like I crawl into bed, put on a podcast, right, snuggle in, close my eyes and kind of just sort of relax and let the podcast go. And then when that finishes, I take my headphones off and go to sleep. It's now 20 minutes until I usually go to bed, and I'm here with you chuckle fucks recording a podcast.
in the middle of essentially the city.
In the middle of the city, yeah.
I reckon that leads into an interesting discussion. Like, what's your go-to evening routine to unwind? Like you play Euro Truck. Like,
Well,
I think that's brilliant.
I have a whole thing.
It
like,
depends on the
hours
scale
up.
of the day, surely.
No,
okay,
not
let's
for
say
me.
let's say it's a school night. Like, when are you when are you saying to yourself, all right, my day is done. It is now time to hit that point in my brain where it's like, okay, it's now bed focused.
Yeah.
At what point have you gone, all right, I've switched off activities and I'm focusing now on activities that lead me to go to bed?
I think it takes me probably about 45 minutes of pure wind down before I
Define your wind down, because everyone has such a different wind down.
You walk in, you throw your keys on the table, kick off your shoes. Usually I'll go to the fridge and I'll usually pour myself a glass of water or a glass of soda water, or if it's late at night, maybe a wine, maybe a beer. Who knows? I might feel a little bit nice today. Mm-hmm. Might want to treat myself. But anyway, so you might get the beer, then you might start. So essentially, you might drink it. So I'll drink my beer. I'll go.
So you're like you got to have a beer to unwind.
I don't need to have a beer. Sometimes I might have a cup of tea, but usually I like a beverage for when I wind down, and that usually accompanies with the inaugural sitting down in your chair for the evening. Because I feel like every man has a designated chair in their house that they sit in.
Can oath. Yeah, I mean,
Well, I know it's a bigger thing when you get older in life, because I know my dad has a designated chair.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And if you,
So do I.
And if you dare, it's always an armchair. And if you dare sit in that chair, it's all hell to pay for.
Dude, my mum was like that big time, where it was like, no, this is my chair. Like, if I'm not at home, I guess it's up for free game.
my mum did the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just a human thing. We all have our spot.
We have weird possessions.
When I wouldn't get up out of my dad's seat, and he just looked at me one day when I was like younger, and I remember him say, he's like, "Do you pay taxes?" And I'm just like, "No, Dad, I don't pay taxes." And he's just quiet. He goes, "Right, then you don't get to pick a chair.
I pick your chair for you.
I pick your chair until you pay for taxes."
Dude, that's my go-to insult on my cat. When he's just lying on my spot in the bed, I look him up and down. I'm just like, "Well, do you pay fucking rent?" To which he just looks back at me and doesn't move.
That's the better argument, you see, because just if I was in your situation at that time, right? I would have said, yes, father, I do pay taxes, right? And he'd look at me, and like if this was my dad and I having this argument, I'd say, yes, I do pay tax, and he looks at me and goes, fuck yeah, you do too, because you pay GST. Every time you've ever bought, if you buy
Thanks,
lollies,
John Howard.
If you buy
Thanks for
lollies at
bringing
the
that
shop for
joke.
25 cents, you've paid tax. right? Everything you buy, you pay in tax on it.
Fuck, that's advanced. I
Right.
never thought of that.
Yeah, dude.
That's
I got
thinking.
I learnt that on my excursion to the Victorian Parliament building when I was 12, because I was like, because the guy there was like, everybody pays taxes, and I was like, I don't pay tax. I'm too young to pay tax. I don't have a job. Right, that was my logic, right? And the guy was like, no. You ever bought something with money? And I was like, yeah. Well, yeah, you just paid tax. That's got GST. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Can you extend that logic, Loki? And I'm flexing the law mind real quick. Could you extend that logic to be like, okay, the question of, do you pay rent? If I were to go into any commercial establishment, buy something of theirs, wouldn't the 6 degrees of separation state that because I've paid for one of their wares, that has become money for them?
Space or something?
Only if
and then they've used that finance to then finance their rent for that space.
Only no.
That's only if they actually make sure the money is applicable towards rent. If they use it for anything else, I feel like
it's even easier than that, bro. You're trying to pay rent on somewhere else. You can say it's directly applicable to pay rent on the house you're currently living in if you get Centrelink benefits.
Oh, I'm assuming. Okay,
Right.
I'm factoring out the idea of like, let's say, obviously, perfect world. The homes that you currently exist in are completely devoid of mortgage. You live in them, right? Like, let's say, like a kid, right? They don't pay rent, right? Let's go with that logic for real quick. Just the one you just used, right? Could you not also then clap back to your father, going, no, I also pay rent, right? When I went to buy that 25-cent piece of like candy. He then put that 25% piece into his budget, which has then gone to pay his rent for that commercial space. And then you've just lawyered your father.
But to be honest, then your father would be like, "Where'd you get the dollar from?
Yeah,
came from my
couch.
That's true. Didn't
well,
it?
Then,
you went rummaging through my
crux
couch
of the story,
and you found.
Our parents always have the final trump card.
I know this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You live in their house. You're gonna do by their rules.
Yeah,
which is
dead set.
That's the
we have fucking weird things that we go possession over, like chair. Like, that's our seat. That's one I sit in. No one else can sit in that. What other animal claims weird possession over just gimmicks?
I think most animals claim possession over like a place to sit. Like most animals are territorial,
but
right?
People have
like
been,
dogs.
There's territorial.
We just sit there. Dogs will piss on it.
But it's literally like, this is where I've always said, this is my spot.
Yeah.
Like this.
But John's ruling still applies. Like a dog will piss on something.
No. That's marking territory. I completely understand where you're coming from.
But that's what we do to mark territory. We sit there and we say, "This is my territory."
But do we do that the same way these days? But we just call it mad flex.
To just chuck on mad flex at the end of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like these days, would you say that if we ever tried to display our dominance, whether male or female, people just like, "Huh, you're flexing, bro." Like, "Oh, that's a mad flex."
Well, what do you think warrants just that kind of mad flex?
Like in this situation. Wouldn't like the mad flex would just be like going to your car and bringing out like your own chair?
Whoa.
Just be like the biggest.
That's
flex.
an alpha move. I
Oh
rate
my
the
God.
alphaness of that. Well, so you've gone over to you've gone over to a mate's place and like there's 6
That's my
chairs for
seat.
7 people, right? And like, what are you gonna sit on the floor? Nah, bro, I come equipped, man. Bring out this fucking absolute gimmick chair, place it smack bang it. Like then you get to place your own chair. Right in that house, those 6 chairs are already placed. You can't move them. You bring your own chair. You dictate your own terms.
I still remember I went to this 18th where for some reason I had in my mind that I was going to get absolutely panini'd, and I decided to bring a mattress
Oh my god!
to sleep on.
Not a swag. You bought a mattress.
Like I bought a full Duna mattress. I was like,
Dude, that is such
17, 19 years old.
For lack of a better
and
term.
my mate's like, I still picture, I like walk into the kitchen, like holding this like green mattress. He's making tequila like rum or something.
Can you start that story again? I just sort of lost it on the fact that you called getting drunk panini.
You know what the kids are calling getting?
Because my first thought was to the old goof, sticky dick in a sandwich maker, make a paninis.
You know what?
And then from there, I stopped listening.
You know what the kids are now calling, like, we all have our terms for getting on the absolute sesh, right? Oh, we got munted, cunted, smashed, lashed, like all those fucking gimmick ones.
As people, the fans of the show would know, we like to call it getting on the sauce.
Get it on the sauce, mate. All right, that's what we refer to it as. The kids nowadays, based on what I've scoped on like popular social media trends, and I fucking popped to it because I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's slap a postcard on me because I'm absolutely sent.
That's so weird.
Oh my!
That's so.
I fucking love it.
But
How many
think
kids
about
have been
that.
watching Postcards or Getaway, man?
But that's what I'm like. That's what I'm saying. Like these Gen Z kids, they're all on their phones. It's about the fucking TikToks and shit. I don't even know what a TikTok is, but apparently kids are organizing strikes on that shit. Like there's some serious political action going on there. Apparently. Oh, and people like making memes about songs. Right? It's a weird platform. Right, but but that's what this generation is, and then they're calling getting drunk postcarded. Have these kids ever seen a postcard in their lives?
It's the getting sent that like the slap a postcard on it is
Slap a
like
postcard.
I'm going to add a bit of emphasis to
Technically,
it.
shouldn't it be slap a stamp on me?
Something like that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like all of these imply that you understand the analog forms of communication, which these kids have never experienced. Ever.
I know.
So, like, where are they getting this concept from? Right? Like, this is the generation who thinks the floppy disk icon, right, that the save icon isn't a floppy disk, but is actually like a vending machine.
Oh my
Right?
god!
And they go,
no, I heard that, but I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
What
that's
the
what
Kids these days don't know the pain of the little paperclip man. They don't know the pain of the Microsoft paperclip.
Are we really going to do a kids these days segment?
Well, I'm
Well,
just
we
saying.
kind of
We kinda
are.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know the pain of when you're trying to do something on Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, that little paperclip will pop up and be like, do you need any help?
The way you fucking sold that was excellent.
That's
He's not wrong. Like
that's
that's
the
how it
subtext
was.
that comes across.
It was
He
like-
looks so snooty with his
Yeah.
little glasses on his...
Hello, David. I
Hello.
see that your Word document isn't quite grammatically correct. It's okay.
Can
know
I help
you're-
you with some spelling there?
You're only human. Maybe I can help.
I'm a computer. I can work this out so much faster than you.
Oh, yes, they're human. I know you're trying to write your essay and it's 5 minutes before it's due. Allow me, a not quite sentient AI, to send you some help.
We should definitely do more podcasts at this time of night.
When
Yeah,
we're
we
all
should,
a little
'cause I
bit
get fucking-
tired, weird.
How old
Yeah.
do you think is too old for you to have your ear to the ground on the youth nowadays? Because like me finding out that like slap a stamp on me, I'm fucking sent.
Let's just take like a little bit externally. Like Bernie Sanders is going to be
He's pushing 80, bro.
He's going to be the oldest hipster known to man. Because this guy has kept his ear to the ground.
Yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
right
as,
there.
as a socialist contender, well, he's promoting all of his agenda is all meant to be socialist.
Yeah, but the thing is that he's had that same agenda though for 40
know,
years.
I know.
Like
He's 4 years out of date.
He's so old that society that he isn't catching up to
did
society.
he
Society's
walk?
caught up to
Did he?
him.
Did he walk Selma? Or is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think he did. Or he went to he did walk with Martin Luther King at a thing.
He's a cool
He's
dude.
the oldest ever candidate, isn't he? Like he's pushing 80.
I don't know if he's oldest ever, but he is definitely one of the
But how
oldest.
bad would you want to be president if, like, at 80 you're still like, I can
Dude,
do it?
I fucking
Bro,
respect
it's
it.
the fucking president of the United States, bro. Like that is like the top job of top jobs.
But hey, they're
Fucking
just
A,
giving
you're
it
gonna
away
give a
these
crap.
days.
Hey, as long as his mind's still intact, it's not a position that requires much physicality.
What do you reckon?
You don't even have
Like-
to have an intact mind. Ronald Reagan was just about fucking senile at the end of his second term.
I mean, you can
And
make
he
some
was-
cases
he
about
was
Donald
doing
Trump
it.
too. I
And let's
guess.
all
Right.
be honest, Reaganomics was just a horrible idea to begin with.
Reagan.
No,
That's
no.
what it's known as.
It is, but what I mean is that like like Reagan actually had dementia, and like it was starting.
Alzheimer's or dementia?
No, Alzheimer's. Sorry, he had
Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's, and it was actually starting to show by like halfway through his second term. That's why if you notice a lot of the PSAs he did, it's him and Nancy Reagan.
Yeah.
And Nancy does a lot of the talking, right? And he just
Is that-
stands there and smiles
is that
because
when
the
they-
lights are on, but nobody's home.
Is that during the back end section when he went on the massive drug?
Yeah, war on drugs.
War on
Yeah.
drugs?
This is crack cocaine. Yeah.
And then that's all he could say. Then Nancy would have to step in and do like the rest 2 hour of speech.
Yeah. Crack cocaine is bad. Just say no. Right.
But
Like, do you think your ears are through the ground? Like, John, I know yours isn't really like.
My ear hasn't been to the ground since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And even then, I don't know.
You've walked your own path, John, and I fucking respect it.
I think I
All right.
lost touch with the youth
Well, okay.
after. No. Let me just finish. I think I lost touch with the youth when I bought a fidget spinner.
It's all about when you stop
Yeah, righto.
caring. Like at that point, I can understand it.
I
'Cause
bought
you've gone,
fidget. I bought one for $60.
Fuck me.
Okay.
It was pretty sick. It had red bearings in it, and it was like multicolored 3D printer plastic, and it made like a real cool swishy sound when you span it.
Dude, I was
And
this-
where is that $60?
It's broken.
Yeah.
It's snapped.
Right.
I
I paid $6 for mine at the local petrol station. It has an American flag on it, and it still works.
It's not a good fad, but I'm telling you, that was the last time I had my
Dude,
ear
it
to
was
the
a
ground,
fucking
and it wasn't.
high-key fad, man.
I actually
it was
didn't
big.
mind. I actually didn't
Was
mind
it
the
bigger than
fidget spinner.
Harlem Shake though? There's a.
Do you think that's the biggest? So if we had to, okay, so the tens are almost finished, right? We're about like 4 or 5 months away from hitting the 20s, the roaring 20s again.
This decade
What is
has
the
been very
greatest?
interesting
It's
as
been
well.
a fucking absolutely culturally diverse decade. Like a lot of shit has happened from 2010 to
2010,
now.
2014 was one section, and then 2014 to 2017 was another section, and then you got this whole world.
Dude, the
we're
whole
now.
vibe changed in my world in like 2016, man. Like, and then after that, there was like such a shift in like my ability to care about whether or not like I was really in touch with the youth nowadays. But now I've drifted back
You
and
like
forth.
what you like, Dave.
Yeah, you like what you like, yeah, and you find yourself, right? It's so true. Like, if we have, like, I don't know what our demographic is for Pint Party,
yourself.
but like PSA to like kids coming out of high school. Like, God forbid if you're listening to this podcast and you're only fucking 17. Kids coming out of high school, like, you genuinely find yourself in uni. Like, it's such a fucking like gimmick you hear in the early stages.
Yeah, can I speak on this? Can I like tell a personal story? So like, I am not a very particularly academic person. Okay, like essays make me want to cry and tear my hair out and lead me to some very dark thoughts. Right, like I genuinely get mental health issues trying to write essays, and so I always thought, and also I got a flat 40 on my ATAR. And by the way, I only know 40, and technically it was lower, but when you get below 40, they don't tell you what it is.
You got to pay for it.
Yeah, no, you don't even pay for it. They just won't tell you. They just straight up, like mine was so low, they didn't tell me what
When
it
you
was.
get to 35, you got to pay for it.
Oh,
I've
really?
heard kids pull in 17s.
Okay, well, back in my day, they didn't fucking tell you, right? I just knew it was a 40, and that was it, right? Once you get to there, they don't tell you, right? And so I just went, well, that's cool. University's not for me, right? And I ended up going, I went to RMIT anyway because it was like, well, what else am I supposed to do with my life, right? And I went there and I tried to do a diploma. Diploma in IT, right? And I learned about like programming and like web design and shit. And I was like, I can't write in Java to save my life. Well, that's the end of that. And I dropped out of that. I went to bartender school, became a bartender for a month and nearly died because I have flat feet. I went, well, guess that's not for me either, right? Being a bartender, and kind of wandered aimlessly for a few months until I got my gig working in television. And I did that for like a year and a half, thinking and at the time thinking that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my career. Like I'm not a university person. I'll never go to university. I'll never get a degree, but that's okay. This is just who I am. And then I got made redundant, and it was like, well, fuck, what do I do? Right? And you know, months and months went by, various deep thoughts, soul searching, come to uni, right? And skip ahead a bit here to like year and a half ago. I was kind of like reflecting on who I was as a person and where I was going and kind of what I was doing with my life. And I realized that I was a total, like between the ages of 18 and like 23, I was a fucking asshole. Like, holy shit, was I an asshole? And a big part of my problem was I was very closed-minded. And I don't mean closed-minded in that, I was a bigot or anything like that. No, what I mean by closed-minded is that I wasn't willing to accept new information, right? I was like, I know what the world's about. I finished high school. Now this is what the way the world is. It's set in stone. Not interested in learning anything else, right? And never having my ideas challenged. And then you get to uni and you meet people with fucking PhDs, like they're just shitting PhDs every morning, right? And you know, then it's sort of like fucking Homer Simpson against Mike Tyson in the intellectual match. And I was just like, yeah.
Just to quickly speak on that,
Yeah.
because I think that final point you made is so prevalent. The idea that like you needed to be challenged, not like intellectually primarily, in order to go through that threshold of change.
Yeah.
To where you realized the world isn't your oyster. The world is like so broad, so open-ended. Anything can be
It's
happening.
not that the world is my oyster. It was that the world wasn't set in stone.
World wasn't set in stone.
And like the ideas that I had weren't actually correct, right? And it was sort of like and also this is coming from a place like as a gamer. And so, like, that's why, I see the things going on in the gaming community and I kind of understand where that's coming from because I was one of those people, right? And that's what I mean. Yeah, you come here, you come to university and straight away, like, the first time you talk to a lecturer, they shut that shit right down.
And I think that is such an important thing. Now,
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
a lot of people, when they first come out of high school and they're like 18, 19,
Yeah.
whatever, right? They do a gap year, they're 19. They come out and they leave uni because they get that yelling. They get that yelling from your lecturer. Where I'm not even going to say yelling, really, because it's not, right? You just, that first aspect of really being talked down to, where it's not necessarily what it is. It's that you have some set in your way opinion, but you're closed-minded, is what you just
And it's
said.
the fact that the person who's telling you off usually is coming with arguments that you're not used to.
Not even arguments, points.
This is what I'm saying, because in high school, there would be no discussion about it. It was like, oi, get off there, go do some work or something. There would be like, well, no, I'm actually doing this, this, or this. Whereas these days, you might say that to a lecturer, and then they'll come out with points being like, well, if you don't do your assignment right now, honestly, you're just wasting your hex fees, like da 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 da.
It's an open discussion,
and that's how it puts in perspective of why are you here. But it's funny how that you mentioned that before, John, because I did one of my first communications class was with John, but I hadn't met John yet. So John was sitting in the front of the class.
Oh, this is intro to media.
I think I was in that fucking class too.
You were up the back.
I was at the back. This is all our experience to John, because John's at the front, and I literally remember this because I'm with my boys at the time.
Yeah.
And
So
then
we were
John-
all in the same class, but we weren't friends yet.
John sticks his hand up and answers the question, to which I'm sitting in the back going, "Oh,
Who's
here
this
we go.
guy? We found the guy.
We've got the guy."
Yeah.
And literally, it was like, John, I think you at least did it at least 5 times a lecture. You would stick your hand up and be like, oh, I think it's this.
Yeah.
And I'd be sitting in the back because that's so funny, because I'd be sitting with my mate Joe, and I literally met Joe that semester, so we were still just becoming good budding friends. It was just smack talking and stuff, and I actually later in the semester I actually got kicked from that lecture by Dan Golding. Dan Golding, the Swinburne myth himself.
Top bloke.
Absolute
Dan. I
love.
love
One of
Dan.
the best lectures I've ever had. But he like kind of asked me. He didn't even ask me to leave. At the end of the lecture, he pulled me aside. It was like, "Hey, I just might in the future if you just didn't talk like so loudly during mine." But he was being so like, I don't mean to be hurting your feelings or anything. Like I just want to do my job. And in that moment, I felt so bad, and I bought him a coffee.
Because if I had to harken back, because I think it was Ricky who said that everyone should work in hospitality. But like Ricky was the one, I believe, to go, all right, everyone should work in hospitality. And I agree with that. I agree with it so much, because there's so much you can learn about,
He said,
your own personal self, as well as like just tolerance between people, right?
When you first escape university, when you first leave high school, there's essentially 3 main options you can do. You can either go take a gap year, go travel around Europe, you can work, or you can go to university.
And I think all 3 need to happen. I think you need to experience hospitality for what Ricky exactly said. You need to experience travel because, I do believe in that adage of do it young because you're not going to be able to really enjoy it later kind of thing.
It's a different aspect of travel, I think, when you're older. I think you try and...
it's very different.
You look at the sentimentality of it, I think, when you're older.
You appreciate it differently young because whilst you have your youth, you can, like, there's a different lens you have, right? Because then it builds towards what you're like later, right? But what I'm getting at, I think that third limb is just as important as the other 2. Everyone should go to university. Not to maybe
even
not
TAFE.
to,
Even
yeah,
TAFE.
even TAFE. But the idea of you have grown up 12, 13 years in the school system, right? Public school, private school, like not university, tertiary education system, right?
Yep.
And that's such a different way of teaching, and it doesn't really teach you the methods that you will learn in university in order to learn continuously throughout the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Right?
whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and that's why I believe you should go to university to study, maybe not to get a degree, but to be exposed to what John just
Dead
said.
set.
That perspective of getting challenged. Because if you get challenged young, and if you are the person who is inclined to push past that, see through it and go, all right, maybe I should be challenged. And then you gain that perspective of, wait a minute, I've been closed-minded up until the age of 20. I was closed-minded as well up until the age of 23. It wasn't until like 2 years ago where I was like, what the fuck? I was an absolute goddamn piece of shit at the age of 18 to 20.
Oh my God.
I don't know if I've told many of the stories on the podcast. They will come in time.
Yeah,
But from
they
the ages
will.
of 18 to 21, let me tell you, I was an absolute fucking dickhead.
Yeah, so was I. Oh my god.
But then I got challenged at uni, like that intellectual stimulation where my mind had to go, wait a minute, you're not as fucking smart as you think you are.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? Your perspective on that needs to happen.
Well, you learn more through failure than you do through success.
Exactly.
And
Well,
that's the
Dude,
age-old
that's my biggest
mantra.
fucking like thing I always go is like, I don't believe in failure. I believe that there's succeeding and then there's learning, right? Because failure is like a stopping point.
Do you want to put that on a bumper sticker,
Dude,
Dave?
that's a bumper sticker. I would get that tattooed on me if I hadn't just like literally finished my arm. I would make a shirt of that. I don't think it's actually already trademarked, actually, because I've heard it before.
You can't trademark a sentence, I think. I don't know. I don't give a shit.
No, because I remember some people tried to. I think the guys who did the React videos, they tried to trademark like the word React.
No, that's we're talking a whole sentence here, not a single word.
But like that's the thing, they would try and copyright like a whole bunch of words that would make up the sentence.
I don't want to get into the legalities. What I meant was copyright. You
Yeah.
can copyright a sentence because like just based on like the threshold.
How,
and all that kind of
how
stuff.
crazy is that?
All right, but they tried to trademark.
Do you know?
React.
Do you know the case I'm talking about?
No, I do know the case. It was I had my ear to the ground on that. I think they were trying to trademark React, whereas copywriting, because it's one word, it doesn't have much substantiality to it, nor originality, aside from what they're imparting onto it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can't trademark that word for use outside of that. And I think that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
They wanted React, right? And the same thing with Candy Crush. They wanted to trademark candy. Right, like the word usage of it. Every time it was used in like their sphere of commercial entertainment activity, doesn't have to be pertaining to mobile games featuring candy.
If you
on
use
it.
the word candy,
But if you use the word candy, they get a royalty. And I'm like, they can't. That didn't go ahead because you can't.
that's
fucking
general relevance of
yeah.
a
You
word.
can't trademark a word, right?
That means you're
Like,
just
without-
changing the meaning of a word. Otherwise,
Yeah. They were fucking interesting cases, though. I respect the audacity to be like, "Fuck
that's
yeah, man."
it's a ballsy go. Just
It's
be like, hey
ballsy.
guys, do you reckon we'll be able to reach for the stars? And if we hit the moon, we're gonna get mad royalties. But I don't think that's never gonna happen.
No,
Like,
it can't. I was actually having a discussion earlier.
what is the craziest law case? Like non-criminal.
You're perfect, because I was actually having a discussion earlier today with a friend of the podcast, Carla. And this is actually going to be a rather intellectual / deep episode. Of Pint
Dude,
Party,
it's
which
so
is
funny we're
interesting.
having this one at like the most latest we've ever recorded this.
Well, this is good. Anyway, so
Let's
yeah,
go.
Pint Party after dark. The boys get real with the banter.
Real talk.
so the
Real
most interesting
talk.
case, and it's actually, I think it's either before the New South Wales court currently, or it's still very early in its infancy, but it could potentially be the first ever case to be decided on augmented humans.
Really?
Yeah, a man. So it was accessing the public transport system in New South Wales, right? And I don't know if it's a Mikey they have, but they
Yeah.
have something.
Oh yes, I'm familiar with the tech. Okay,
It's an Opal card.
Don't know.
Opal.
Don't know about the case. I do know about the tech. Okay, so just real quick primer. Okay, so people in Victoria, we've got the Mikey card, and everybody knows about it. It's a little plastic card. You tap on a thing, and then a gate opens at some point in your future. You don't know when, but yeah. And we spent $2.7 billion on this instead of sending a rover to Mars. We built the Mikey system.
It only half worked when it
And
first came out.
that's what I'm saying, right? And it was a bit of a lemon. New South Wales have a similar system, but theirs is a hybrid system for their public transport network, where they have both a card, which I think is called an Opal card.
It's called an Opal card.
And then they also have a paper ticket machine system as well. Japan's got a similar system. The UK has a similar system, and it's being taken up by various like.
The London
nations around
Underground
the world.
also used the Opal system.
Right. So I thought that was called Octopus. No, that's Hong Kong.
That's
Hong
Hong
Kong have Octopus. That's right. So they just bought. Yeah. So New South Wales went, we're not going to spend $2.7 billion. We're going to keep that money and just buy the franchise, which is what we should have done.
Yeah, I don't
right?
know why
But
we-
there you go. Well, because we thought we could make a shitload of money on it. We were trying to the whole state was trying to get into tech. But anyway. So the guy specifically. So the way those cards work, right, is that they have an RFID chip in them, right? Which so for people at home, if you've got a modern debit card or a credit card, and if you have a look at it, you'll see this little gold square that looks like kind of a SIM card thing, right? With that chip is an RFID chip that's connected to a strip of copper that runs around the edge of the card, and when you tap onto your tap and go thing, it will send a pulse to the card, which is enough pulse to power the card, which then sends a pulse back with all of your bank details saying, hey, this is me, this is my card, verify me. My Key system does the same thing. It just says, hey, I've got money on the card, open the gate. So what the guy did was he soaked the card in acetone, I think, or some kind of an acid that melted off all the plastic but left the copper strip and the little chip behind. He then took it out of that and then basically stuck it into his arm. Right, I don't know what the surgical procedure was.
I spoke about this a few episodes ago.
He did, and he fucked it up.
And
right?
he got infected. He had to take it out.
Because he didn't coat it in a medical safe biopolymer first. He just stuck the fucker straight in.
What an idiot!
Right. If you're gonna be dumb, you got to be tough, right? And he obviously wasn't tough enough.
Do you reckon his mates just thought he was the toughest guy out of all of them now? Because man, you're prepared to stick RFID tags in your skin.
He will be the toughest man, because if now harkening back to the point, so the case before the court, it initially was about the fact that he had tampered with their product.
Yes.
Right, which is something that it's kind of a grey area, because what he tampered with was just the physicality of it. What they were arguing was, no, you tampered with it in the essence of you took away our or the ability to generate business because you could have added your own funds or whatever, right? But what he really was doing was just adding ease of access. He didn't want to.
That's how they're arguing it?
No, I can't remember specifically.
It's a weird argument.
Okay.
No, but the case is switched in essence now, because what they're doing is they've kind of negated that point of it. I could be getting it wrong if anyone listening, but the main thing what this case can achieve, and which is the difficulty before the court, is he has an augmented system in his body that allows him to access technology, right? Something that a natural human can't do.
Yep.
So the case before them, and judges, when they hear cases, they have to apply policy prospectively. So what they could very easily do is be like, no, violation, get the RFID chip out of you because that's a violation, which essentially say that Australian courts now think that we don't need augmented humans in our system. But what they can do, and what I think it'll probably end up being, is when they make the decision being like, wrong of you to tamper, but right of you to claim your argument that you didn't do anything wrong in having an RFID chip in your body to access technology, which would then lead a ruling into the first ever case to test augmented humans.
Because couldn't he make the case that he's already purchased the card?
That's his case. That's his case. I have purchased the card, which means I have access to use the card in order to get into your system.
It is now my property. I can
and
now
what
it isn't.
It's not. That's what they're arguing.
It
so
remains. Well, according to the terms of service, the card is the property of the operator,
which means
and
that
they grant you
tamper
access.
with the physicality of the property.
You can't physically tamper with it.
Yeah.
Now, if he didn't tamper with it, if he just straight up left it in the plastic thing and then inserted it into a sleeve under his skin, he'd be all good.
He'd be fine.
He'd
but
be
that's
all
not
good in the hood, but he didn't do that.
But he modified it.
He modified
with
it.
quotation.
It's exactly that. The modification is the word, but that's where the grey area is. He used the modification not to really get the RFID chip to use it bad, in a negative aspect, in order to use it to access banks or any of that kind of shit.
But that doesn't matter.
It's
It's
just so he
material
can get
breach
around
of
it.
contract.
Yeah, that's on really strict terms.
The project interviewed the guy, and his legit answer was on some of the lines of, "Oh, it's just really hard getting my wallet out of my pocket every time I want to take the train, so I thought it'd just be easier if I just swiped my arm."
I feel him. It's a fucking pain in the ass.
No,
I would
is.
do it too.
That's the brilliance of this case, because it's never been done before. No guy has been stupid enough to go about really risking their health to plant some RFID chip into their body just purely for ease of access, because there's no malicious intent on his part. Right? That's a key thing.
Well, no, people have done it before, but people haven't done it in this specific way.
In a specific way, and the different distinguishing being others have done it maliciously, where it's been I've taken the RFID chip, put it in my body in order to circumvent and do things in a negative kind of way. Whereas here's just be no, I'm using this thing that I purchased exactly for what I'm using it for, to access public transport. I'm not using public transport to do illicit bad things, where it's if you had my card, you could get my fingerprints, right? No, it's I am using this literally as an ease and access. I don't like carrying this card around. That's the key thing that's going before the court. It's okay, if we were to rule in his favor, we're essentially stating the first ever case law, common law principles on augmented humans, right? Which would then lead into okay, how broadly can we read this ruling? What's the extent of augmentation a human can go through?
Well, see, but then it comes down to a case of bodily autonomy. It's sort of do you have the right to modify your own body? Yes or no? Because then that has
really
wide-reaching implications for religious rights affecting like Jewish people, right? Do Jewish people have the right to get circumcised? But then it also affects women's health. Do women have the right to get an abortion? It affects you, Dave. Do you have the right to get tattoos? Do you have the right to pierce your ears?
Is it
right? Do you have the right to choose your own fucking haircut? Right? How pedantic do you want to get with it?
Oh, like those.
Right.
This is where augmentation
is it legal? Would it be legal? Let's say I lost my arm in a car accident, and I don't have the money or the health insurance to get a prosthetic arm, but my buddy, who's a whiz-bang electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, has decided to make me an arm. Could I walk around the street with that on and then just say this is my prosthetic arm, it works?
And that's
because it's customized and modified, is it illegal because it hasn't been like field tested or
No.
anything
Well,
through
yeah,
license?
depends, right? Because it always like at the age of 60, most people get hip replacements. It's a metal piece of your body. But what the key thing, how they're distinguishing augmentation...
But it's gone through the system. Like they've gone to a hospital. They've said you need a hip replacement, so therefore
That's different. He has no grounds to be able to do that whatsoever, right? Now, whenever someone brings that up to court, fair enough. Completely different case. Now, the distinguishing of augmentation between someone just getting a hip replacement or a prosthetic leg is those are used to achieve natural human... the natural things that a human body can do.
But if this mechanical arm had like a hook in it, like a sky hook or something,
that's an aspect of augmentation, right? But what they're defining and what the key principle of this case is, he augmented his body to access technology, right? Which then, if the ruling of that leads into, okay, now what if I were to insert like my finger can bend backwards and it becomes a USB stick and then I shove it in, right? Because then there are far-reaching implications if I could have like some permanent thing that can access
That
exists, right?
That exists.
Well, again, it's like, is it this case would be able to be like, okay, there's now an official ruling on the legalities of someone augmenting their body to access technology in these kinds of ways.
Do you reckon LinkedIn would try and sue you if they ever saw you with your USB finger in a socket, where they'd be like, "Oh, you're LinkedIn." It's a shit joke.
I'd have to learn more about this case, but I don't think it just seems like a dumb argument for the train operator to make, because it's a straight up material breach of contract. Like, just argue that and you'll win.
Oh yeah, he will probably. No, what I'm getting like, there's.
Is it still in court?
When it comes to cases?
Is it still in court, Dave?
It's either really infinitely or like, I think this case, if it gets, because it's only being heard of like currently at the low levels because it's just a breach of contract, so it gets started in the low level courts. But where grounds for appeal, it'll be taken up not on the ruling of, because I don't think he'll ever argue against the fact there's a breach of contract.
Yeah.
That will go in the favor of Nike or Opel or whatever.
Yeah.
But the key thing that he will be, or what they should be arguing is, okay, what I want to get is a ruling on my ability. The fact that my argument here is I tampered with it, but I didn't tamper with it maliciously. I tampered with it literally just to have an ease of access. What's wrong with ease of access, right? And then they'll contend with that, being like, okay, something blah, 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 you tamper with that product. That's what they're ruling on.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Judges, like cases that go before the court always have a verdict, right?
No,
but
that would
rulings and dictas that come out from judges saying
Yeah, but
that
already exists. It already exists under Australian consumer law. Right, if you own a product, you have the right to use and abuse that product any way you see fit, right? Which is why mod chipping
license
in,
of that product.
But then this then establishes that further going, because that's so broad.
But no, but
interpretation.
but it'll lose, because what I'm saying is, like, so if you own something, you can fuck with it any way you like. That's why mod chips were legal here.
Is that
in
would
game
that come
consoles.
under property? Not.
That's what, no. It's under consumer law. Like, you're allowed to just fuck with anything that you own. But the thing is that the Opel card, you don't own it. You do not own it. You lease it or borrow it or license it or whatever from the operator. Then you have damaged their property, right? And then inserted it into yourself. It doesn't matter even if you insert it. You could put it into anything. You could put it into a Harry Potter one and be like, look at me, open Dorius, beep, oh, get on the train, right? Or some shit like that, right? You can put it into a giant purple dildo, so then when the ticket inspector comes by and says, ticket please, you can pull out this thing. It's like, have a go with this, mate. Just scan the balls, mate. It's right there, right? It doesn't matter. You've damaged their property, right? And if you rule in the guy's favor, what you're saying is that literally anybody can pull something apart for the purpose of putting it in their bodies.
But
right?
that's the key thing.
But that's
'Cause you can
but
rule
that's
in
a bad ruling because I could like rip the light out, and if I shoved it up my ass, right, that's legal.
But only if it's for pleasure.
So I'm getting it's a difficult because policy sits in with what he is saying, right? So what the guy is arguing is aside from it literally,
But that's the thing,
going
John,
against property, right, and breaking it and then shoving it in me. Aside from that, which I doubt he'll contest, then policy consideration comes in going, have I really done anything wrong if I'm literally just creating ease of access to access public transport? Like, that is where the ruling will subside.
If you went to shove a light bulb up your ass, John,
Yeah.
there'd be one thing to say, oh, it's for pleasure. Then if you then stood up with the light bulb up your ass, went, look, I'm a lighthouse, and then begin to spin, that's obviously a different purposing of the technology.
I'm just keen to see how this case goes because we're just one step closer to Deus Ex becoming real, and I'm so about that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see how that goes. But if you want to know about the question like originally asked though is what is the craziest law case, right? I got it I wouldn't call it a case, but I would call it the craziest way a guy won a case was this was in America in like the 1850s or 60s. It was a murder case, right? And so the defendant's lawyer was making the argument that there was no way that the defendant could have fired the gun, right? And then he demonstrated that it was impossible, and in doing so, he shot himself in the head. All right, while demonstrating that it was not possible for the defendant to have shot the other person, right? And in doing so, he shot himself in the head, and as a result, the judge was like, "Shit, he's right," and ruled in their favor. Dude shoots himself in the head and wins the case. I sent that to you, Dave.
No, I don't fucking remember seeing it. You know the craziest Victorian law? Is that you can't change your own light bulb.
Yeah.
You have to have a
You have
fucking...
Do I have to get a guy?
You have to have a licensed electrician.
There's an old, really dated Victorian law that you cannot change your own light bulb in your own home.
It's under OH&S.
OH&S, because you need to hire an electrician to do it for you.
Does that also include the transformer? Because that's my issue at home right now. I haven't. All right.
Any electrical work you need to do at your house, you have to have an electrician.
This is a little beef coming out of the Beasley household. Dad, if you're listening, I'm sick of not having a light bulb in my room. It's been 18 months. Can you please get it fixed?
Lachlan, you're a fucking adult. You can buy your own light bulbs.
I can buy them. I just can't change the transformer. I'm not an electrician. I don't know.
You don't have a light in your room?
No.
At all?
No.
You know what? I've been to your house once, and I was there in the evening. And now that you fucking mentioned
Did
it...
I put on my little side lamp and not my main light?
You put on your fucking side lamp. You didn't put on your fucking main light.
I haven't had a major light in my room for 18 months.
Lockie, you're an adult with a job. You could call an electrician and get this sorted out yourself. If you don't know how to change... Which, by the way...
Look, it's not my house.
Sorry, are you...
No, not my house, not my problem. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, I told the landlord. He knows.
It's literally my situation at the moment. Fucking half my house is flooded, right?
Dude, how'd you flood the house? Because, like...
Okay, let me tell you.
It's like, before you tell... My mate also flooded his house. He flooded his house because he turned his bath on to take a bath, and then he fell asleep. And he just wakes up to the sound of his mum screaming. He's just like, oh. And there's just water all over his second floor of his house. Not the first floor, the second floor. So it was like
because the
coming
first
through
floor
the
was already flooded.
Crazy.
So I just want to preface this by saying I didn't flood the house. All right.
You flooded the floorboards.
No. There's no I. I didn't flood the house. That implies criminality and like guilty conscience. I didn't do it. No one did it. It's a fucking freak accident. Now, Jason and I were out of the home, right? Let's say I was gone for about an hour and a half, right? I was out to go do shopping and a little bit of laundry, right? Now, Jason was gone the entire day. None of us were home. So I come home, and that day, freak storm, huge storm over Melbourne, right? And so much so that I'm pretty sure our street grid, electricity grid, went off and on like 3 times, right? I come home, holy fuck, just remembering brings that PTSD. Walk in, and I step, and I don't, like, it's routine. I'm like, I'm not expecting danger to occur in my home. Walk in, Maui dips, right? So my cat dips out the front door. I'm like, oh, look, that's not unusual. He's a cunt, right? It's not unusual.
To be fair, I've never met your cat, but he does seem like a sassy cat.
Oh,
He is. I met him when he was just a wee kitten, and it's sort of like, even at that point, there's a reason why Dave adopted him. Like the dude's a little furball of just fucking frenzy.
Oh, look, I don't blame him because the way Jason, look, I'm not even going to throw Jason under the bus. The way I raised him was pretty how you going?
He only really became your cat until this year.
What do you mean? I've had him for 3 years.
Yes,
but I didn't start calling him my cat until...
Let's be honest. You really started to form a connection until this year.
But he's calmed the fuck down. Anyway, this is not a story about my cat. I open the door, cat dips. I've gone, well, I'm not unusual. You're a piece of shit. You try to get out all the time. To which I've stepped on the floor and there's been a squish. And I've gone, oh, that squish is wasn't there before. I've taken another step. I'm like, oh, okay. That's concerning. Look, I kind of look down and it's a darker carpet than I'm used to. I go and I hear, and then like my senses attune, and then suddenly I just hear like pissing, like coming from the back room. And I'm like, well, that's unusual. So which I've then looked at all the carpet, which has been drenched, gone, okay, well, it's flooded, right? For some reason, shock hadn't factored in at that point. I've walked through the dredged carpet to see that my fucking washing machine is spewing up water out of it. It's open. It's not on. It's just spewing up water. I'm like, how the fuck is that happening? Walk over it, not on. I turn off the water supply to my house completely. At that point, half the house's carpet was already fucked. Thankfully, the house is on a bit of a slant, so neither mine or Jason's room or the back end of the living room got touched. It really just relegated itself to one big fuck-off pool in the middle of the kitchen, right? Which the kitchen had carpet in it. I think that's a complete oversight on whoever built this house, by the way.
That's a fucking terrible idea.
That's fucking stupid. And also, if you're building a house, why would you fucking build the laundry to kind of have a natural downward slope where if it did, because I'd imagine... two of the most common places where water incidents fuck up, the bathroom and the laundry, right?
Third, the dishwasher.
Right? House doesn't have a dishwasher. But if you're looking at that going, two of the most common places in a house that have water problems should be self-contained if they do happen. Bathroom does. It has its kind of like natural indent. So if water were to go out of places that it shouldn't, it would stay contained within the bathroom.
Well, usually you have a drain in the center of the room.
And you normally have a drain in the center of rooms and bathrooms, right? And showers, right?
Yeah.
But this laundry... where they ask the laundry to be situated, it kind of slants a slightly askew down, or it's kind of really, really flat, which makes no sense, right? It should kind of have a natural indent leading back towards the back of the room where the fucking washing machine is, because that's also a common place where water problems occur. So if it did happen, you'd want to contain it. But no, this water just everywhere. So I call the landlord. I'm like, hey, man, look, bit of a problem. The fucking washing machine exploded. Carpet's all fucked. He comes over. We spend like the next 3 hours cutting up the carpet. Fucking mano a mano on this bitch, right? Me and him going to town, right? And then we've dried it all up and he's gone, yep, okay, look, it's self-contained. You can stay here. It's all dry. That was the last I literally heard from that whole incident. I've left 2 messages with the property manager going, hey man, just so you're aware, half the house's carpet's gone, by the way. He came over for an inspection a month and a half later, walks in.
Was that when he just walked into your house?
No. So the guy comes over for an inspection, which he hadn't done an inspection in a year and a half, right? Walks in, and the first thing he says to me is, where's half the fucking carpet? Sans the fucking. He didn't say that. I've added that for emphasis. But I said fucking. And I was just like, well, I goddamn fucking told you a month and a half ago that there was a flooding. The landlord knows. You know too. I left it with your office that we have a bit of an issue. We need to get this stuff sorted. And he goes, oh yeah, no, fair enough. Goes on, does the inspection, says it's all good, lips. That was 5 months ago. We're still half a house, no carpet.
But it gives your house a character,
Yeah,
surely.
It gives it some character.
Gives
right?
you when you
it's
have people
fucking
over,
cold on
it's
the feet,
talking
man.
point. It's talking points,
It's
Dave.
fucking cold on the feet. Well, it's not a great talking point. When people come over, I have to be like, hey, man, just a quick FYI. When you see the house and you see that half the carpet's gone, it's okay. It's a feature.
It's literally every
all right?
time. Is it the first thing you mention when someone's like, oh, do you mind if I crash the night?
Yeah, it's literally, it's not like, oh, Jason's a piece of shit. He normally stays up to 2 o'clock playing games. Don't worry about his noise. No, that I say that after the fact in order to quell the fucking the outbreak they have when
By
the way, we're missing half the carpet. It looks like shit. And if you're going to go to the bathroom and you're not wearing any socks, it's going to be fucking weird, right? Because it's going to be a cold sensation and there's still a bit dirt on that concrete that was underneath the carpet.
So the obvious answer, which is to say the unfunny answer, is to just call the tenants union and bring it up with them and get them on your side and get it sorted.
Well, now I want the funny answer.
But the funny
This is Pint Pint.
answer is what you got to
Get
do
both.
is you got to go to that section. So it's just bare concrete. Did you
Yeah,
say?
just concrete. Maybe a bit of dirt.
Get yourself a spray can of black spray paint and just do a collage of penises all over the concrete section. Just penises after penises after penises. And I'm talking not just your simple little dick and balls. I'm talking some really like triumphant bastards, some real veiny bastards. Right, just draw them all over the concrete. That way, the next time, right, the inspector comes in, he goes, "Oh, so you got dicks on your floor," and you just go, "Yeah, yeah." You probably wouldn't see that if it was carpeted. That'd solve your problem. Just put the carpet in.
It was there when we got here, mate.
You wouldn't see it if it was
You're
carpeted.
gonna keep that dead face, just mate.
Yeah, mate.
Just need the carpet. There
Just
wouldn't
need-
have any dicks everywhere.
That's right. Yeah, there wouldn't be so many dicks.
Can I put over my mate Harry for a second?
All right.
He's a great drawer of dicks.
Yep.
And I did not notice this until we're at
Dude, so's Jason. Jason's an like an
It's
odd.
not something that pops up in conversation. Hi, I'm Bob. I'm great at drawing dicks.
No, but like Jason is an oddly good drawer of dicks.
we're at can I explain? So we're at Nevermind Trivia on a Wednesday, and one of the questions was like draw a dick or something. So like one of the guys quickly just did a doodle of the dick, and Harry's gone no.
It's anatomically incorrect.
And then he's just gone, there's no 3D rendering. And then he just starts. he like curls it. So it's got like full like as 3D dimensions to it. And it actually has shading in the background. And we won a free jug because of how good.
Now, is it biologically true that every male's penis skews to the left?
No.
Now, in interest of full disclosure, mine skews to the left.
No.
I'm trying to remember.
Some people.
I think mine does swing left.
No.
Now,
mine-
I've been told, now this could be completely hyperbole because what I've been told is it swings to the left because it tries to orient itself to where the heart is. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I don't think it has
know.
that kind of connection.
No,
no.
it's not. No, because that's not how boners work. No, and also no, mine doesn't go to the left. Mine's just either straight up the middle.
Straight down the guts, mate.
I don't know. I'm straight as an arrow, mate. You know, like
I don't know. Mine skews to the left.
And
It's a kind of obvious skew too.
but like I've seen dicks that go slightly to the right. I've seen dicks that go up. They look like little horns.
Yeah, you
That's
got-
true.
you-
I've seen an
but You
uptick.
do get guys where it's like straight line all the way, and then it has a slight lift.
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
end.
or a slight dip.
I feel
Yeah,
like
you
the
can
ones
get
that have a
lifts.
slight lift up.
Would you
are optimal.
rather a lift or a dip?
A lift.
A lift?
Would you prefer a lift?
Absolutely.
Always a lift.
Always a
dude.
lift.
Girls, please holler at us. Would you prefer a dip or a lift?
Or the left leaner.
They
Look-
they prefer a lift too. Have you not seen like women's sex
No,
toys?
no,
like,
I've-
are you not?
dude.
Are you not familiar with female sex toys?
Dude.
Well, obviously I'm not familiar enough, John.
If we're going in for the mandible claw, fuck, you lift
Finger
up.
guns?
You lift
Nah,
up.
You lift. Look, you lift up.
You lift up. And
Oh,
then
you're
you make,
teaching me.
and then
the
you make,
lift.
and then you
And
make
then-
a come hither motion
And
with
then
your fingers.
No,
That's
no,
how
no.
you-
It's like
You
how
jiggle
Bert,
the keys.
you jiggle the kid. No, yes, no, dude.
yeah.
Hold on. Bert Kreischer describes it brilliantly. It's like you're reaching up in the attic and you're trying to get a fucking.
You get that bell.
You're trying to
ring
get.
that
You're
bell.
trying to get like the bike rack from the top. So you're
Yeah.
just like, okay, let me see if I can just reach up there.
Try
That's
lifting
it.
your tippy toes. Can't quite get there.
Yeah, that's that. I think we'll wrap it up
Yeah.
there on
That's how
that
you end it.
fantastic
That's
discussion.
how you end an episode.
That's how you end an episode on how to on like how to finger a woman. There you go. You know,
you didn't
or a dude. All right, prostate play.
Hey, or a dude, man.
It works the exact same
Works
way.
both ways.
You go in, you lift up, and then you make a come hither motion. Oh boy, It's gonna
Find the
get-
keys.
All right, that's the trick. So I want to thank my guests today. I want to thank Dave and Lockie for joining me this
John,
evening.
you're a beautiful soul. Thank you for having
Right.
me.
Or maybe I should say fuck you for dragging me out here like way past my bedtime.
Hey, you don't think this has been fun?
It has. But like, if I had to choose between this or being in bed right now, I'd so much rather be in bed right now.
This could be a
Oh my
top
God,
5
I so-
episode ever.
Yeah, it is a pretty good
It
episode.
talks about legal law.
Do you reckon
cases
when we
for-
get to 100, we should spend the 100th episode going like, all right, let's do our top 100 from like descending to top order.
Super meta.
Like so far, you know what?
You can, I won't. I'm not going to listen to 99 hours worth of episodes to do that. Fuck no. But if you like this episode as well, please, tell a friend about it. That really helps us grow.
It's the best way to help us out, guys.
It's the best way to help us out. Is to tell your friends and just say, hey, listen to this podcast. If you're like going on a road trip or something, like throw it on in the car and just be like, yo, let's get some banter going with the boys, right? An occasional girl. And
we always need new, fresh ideas. So
we
honestly,
always, yeah.
If you have
absolutely.
anything, feel free to throw at us at our Twitter or even our Instagram direct messages page. Also works too.
Yeah, absolutely. Which so we're at Pint Party on Twitter and at pint.party on Instagram. And also those are in the episode description. So if you have a look at the episode description for this episode, you'll see those names there.
And the bracket itself is on Instagram as well that we spoke about a few.
Oh yeah. The bracket, the white
Which
girl anthem
I'll
bracket.
start running the bracket in the coming weeks.
We're gonna do the
Yeah.
male. We're gonna do the men's one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like when I start it, it will be a day thing. Like it'll finish within 16 days kind of thing. Right. But I
Okay.
just want to start at the perfect time.
It sounds.
Okay.
No, we've got all the setups going. Good.
Cool. That's more work for me. And with that, this has been Pint Party. Cheers.
Cheers.
This podcast is part of the Hartefact Podcast Network. For more of this and our other podcasts, head to hartefactstudios.com.au.